Hey everyone, it's Lindsay and I'm here today to share with you how I did some loose watercoloring with my distress markers. So to start off with, I needed to stamp out a background and I'm using the new stamp set from Two Paper Divas. This is called Go Team. There are some great sports images in this stamp set. However, they have included a little sneaker as well as a t-shirt and hat, which can be used for any number of occasions for a masculine card. So this is a great masculine set to have on hand. Today I'm using the football set, or the football stamp in the set, and also the Go Team sentiment. I'll be inking these both up with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I did plan on heat embossing this. I decided not to because I wanted to keep my watercolor really loose, and when you heat emboss, it kind of keeps your watercolor contained, and I didn't want that. So I am just stamping this in VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I will let these completely dry and it will be waterproof. So in order for this to be waterproof, you might want to take your heat gun to it so it doesn't smear at all. I just let mine dry for a few days and it was ready to go. So to stamp my background, I am just alternating between the Go Team sentiment and the football stamp and just randomly stamping these out, spacing them out a little bit just to create a really fun random background with these two stamps. This is one of my favorite techniques to use images in a stamp set, is to just randomly stamp them out and create a background with them. Once I finish stamping this all out, you can see it is ready to go, and I've left quite a few of these hanging off the edge also to keep with a more random pattern and really make it look as if this is a cardstock that you've not just made yourself but that you've bought. So in order to do some watercoloring with my distress markers, all I'm doing is simply scribbling on the color. I should have mentioned before, I am using a watercolor paper here, and it measures 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, so just a 1/4 inch shy of an A2 size card base, so that'll leave a nice border around this when I mount it on to my A2 card base. You can see I am just really quickly scribbling down color. This is nothing fancy, and I'm using Vintage Photo for my footballs. So I'll just get this color on very quickly. I'm going in between those little areas that should be white. I don't want any color on those. And then I am taking a very wet watercolor brush and I'm just going to spread the color out. Now I'm using quite a bit of water here because I want to allow the water color to move on its own. I don't want to control all of it. So you'll see a little bit gets outside the lines. It's not completely up to the black lines on some parts, and that is exactly what I want to go for, a loose watercolor look. So it looks like I didn't put a lot of effort into it, and I really didn't. I'm doing this very quickly and really not putting a lot of thought into it. If you start to overthink it, that's when you mess it up. So I am just randomly spreading out this color with a lot of water. Now I will speed this up so you don't have to sit here through the whole process of this, because I think you get the idea at this point. And then I'm going to move on to doing those Go Team sentiments. Now here in Iowa, we are in the middle of football season, and this card ended up being for my father-in-law's birthday, and his favorite football team is the Iowa Hawkeyes. They're a college football team, and their colors are gold and black. So in order to go with that theme, I am using a Wild Honey distress marker. At this point, you could switch it up and use whatever corresponds with your team that you guys root for, I guess. But I'm using Golden Honey because it goes with the football colors of the team my father-in-law loves. So I just scribbled that right on top of that Go Team sentiment, and then I'm coming back in with some clean water, and I cleaned off my brush, and I'm just spreading out this color again. I don't want it to bleed into the footballs or any of the other sentiments. I want to keep it contained around its own sentiment. And then I'm ready to move on and start doing other parts of this card. And while I'm doing that, I set that background aside to dry because it did have a lot of water on it, and I wanted to keep some really harsh lines. If you bring heat to it, you lose a little bit of those lines, so I set it aside to dry on its own. I stamped out the t-shirt from the stamp set, and this is on watercolor paper, and I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink again. And then I wanted to use the number 1 fan sentiment, however, it doesn't quite fit in the shirt. So what I did, I just did some selective inking. So I just inked up the number 1 first, stamped that down, wiped it off, and then I can stamp fan by just inking up the fan portion of the sentiment, and I can stamp that underneath. Because these are clear and I didn't stamp right the first time, I can go back and restamp right on top, and I can see straight through those, so it's really not hard to do. I did use my heat gun just to dry this so I could move on quickly to the watercoloring portion. And I'm just using that same Wild Honey Distress marker, scribbling down some color onto this. I'm staying away from the lines and very quickly scribbling that color down. I'll come back in with my really wet water brush and just spread this color out a little bit. I didn't want a whole lot to go over the lines in this portion of the watercoloring. I'll end up fussy cutting this out, and I'm leaving a white border around it, so I wanted a little bit outside the lines, and this is a great way to really keep control of your loose watercolor. By using your markers, you do get a lot of control over this, and you don't have to worry about where it's going to seep out of. So I used my fine detail scissors and I'm just quickly cutting this out. I am leaving a little bit of a white border around this just for a little bit of definition. And because I did loose watercolor, this adds a little bit of white around there, so you can really tell that it kind of corresponds with the whole theme of loose watercolor. So to put this card together, I started with an A2 top folding black card base, and I put some double-sided adhesive on a piece of fun foam. I attached that fun foam to the back of my Football and Go team panel, and I'm just mounting that onto the A2 card base. To add a little bit of interest behind this t-shirt, I am taking some clear thread. This is clear, it's almost like fishing line, but not quite as thick. And I'm wrapping it around my hands, and I'm doing this quite a few times. I'll snip the end of that off, and then I can create a little messy nest of this thread behind that t-shirt. Now I don't need any adhesive here because I have double-sided adhesive on the back of the fun foam on the t-shirt. I can just stick this down, and that thread is so thin it holds the adhesive on the back of the t-shirt, holds that thread in place, so you don't need any extra adhesive at all here. I'll just peel off that double-sided adhesive. I am kind of using my fingers to spread out that thread so it goes out on all sides of that t-shirt, and then I can move it around a little bit once I stick that t-shirt down on top of it. Now, I used a black card base here, so in order to write my sentiment on the inside, I just attached a piece of white cardstock inside. This isn't watercolor paper or anything, it's regular cardstock. I'll stamp the Enjoy Your Day sentiment from the Banners number 3 set from Two Paper Divas right in the center of the inside of that card. I did use VersaFine here. I didn't need to. I could have used my black dye ink, and I did switch over to that for the footballs so I didn't smear them. Once I stamped that final football on top of the sentiment, this card was done and finished and ready to go to my father-in-law. I hope you all enjoyed this video today, and as always I will leave you with a close-up of the finished card and just a few pictures as well. For more information and the supply list, you can head to my blog, craftingwhilecaffeinated.wordpress.com. The link is in the description box below, as well as that eye in the top right-hand corner. That will get you there too, as well as show you a few more videos that you might want to watch today. Thanks so much for watching, and happy crafting!